Oh, I got to remove this.
Oh, that was a little interrupting of the music there, but anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our 74th installment of the Puckin' Around podcast. Puck around and find out, everyone. We have a good one for you guys today. Big trade in the NHL happened this afternoon. We're going to be going over that. Then we're going to be going into our top 10 mock draft. Let's see how many guys we got matched, who we don't, maybe even a trade thrown in there, who knows. And then last but not least, we're going to be talking a little bit about the potential CBA changes as well. But we got a good episode for you this week. Two of my four awesome co-hosts are here. Eric and Cam are dealing with some stuff outside, so they will not be here this week. However, we are going to have a great show with you guys. Starting with the man right below me. You know him, you love him, Mr. Matt Noriega.
Yo.
What's up, Norty? How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm good, pal. How you doing?
I don't hear a word.
I can't hear shit. All I heard was yo.
Yo. And there was
You hear me now?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Good.
That was odd.
Anything to add?
Well, tell us what you said.
How y'all doing tonight? I'm doing good.
He still sounded the same there, though.
Right,
I heard it.
You sounded like the fucking dude from King of the Hill who can't speak properly.
Boomhauer.
Boomhauer, that's right.
Boomhauer, that's his name.
That's funny.
Anyway, also to my left.
The other side.
All right, you know what? I'm going to point right. And on my screen, it's pointing to the wall, but I guess it's pointing directly at you. So I'll just
look at the screen and you see that you're doing the right thing. See?
Whatever. Anyway, Rick Seligman, a.k.a. Slags. How you doing tonight, Rick?
Not too bad, not too bad. Melting, but I'm okay.
It is hot as balls. I can relate. It's going to be 103 here tomorrow.
Do you go around and test and see how hot other people's balls are? That you say it's hot as balls?
I mean, Rick, balls can boil. And boiling balls
boil. And when they do, it hurts.
Yes. Listen, today was the type of day you can take out a pan, crack an egg open, leave it outside, and it'll cook. Tomorrow, it'll be the equivalent of an oven.
You're not wrong, because when I took my dog out at lunchtime, we got out to where the sun was on the walkway, and before I took her, I put my hand on it. It was hot. Like, I don't think we could fry an egg, but it was like, yeah.
It's like I said, it was 95 here today in Massachusetts. It's going to be 103 where I work tomorrow. 103. I don't know what that measures out to in Celsius, but I think it's over 40, isn't it?
Well, we had if you consider the humidity, we were at, I believe, over 120.
What the hell?
Fahrenheit.
Are you sure it's Canada or the Sahara?
It was 46 with humidity this afternoon. So you do
that.
The
humidity
that's 83. That's 83 plus 32. Whatever that comes to, that's what the temperature was.
That's terrifying. It's supposed to. I don't even know what the humidity is going to be here tomorrow, but it's 103 before humidity tomorrow.
Now, did we hit the 46? I don't know, but that was what it was projected at.
That's terrifying. All right. Anyway, now that we're talking about our overheating problems, let's get into this. It was a big trade today, folks. The Anaheim Ducks and Philadelphia Flyers pulled off a little bit of a blockbuster around noon, sending Trevor Zegras to my Flyers in exchange for Ryan Paling.
Better you than us.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't care what you said. I like the value. But anyway.
Yeah, listen, for the price that was paid, I wouldn't have argued.
Yeah, but Zegras to the Flyers for Ryan Paling, a 2025 second that is considered pick 45 was originally Columbus's, and 2026 fourth rounder. Rick, let me start with you. What'd you think?
Well, like I just said, if my worry that when, with all the rumors about Zegras coming to Montreal is what's going to be the price to pay for him, right? But the price you guys paid And on your podcast earlier, Eric said it. Even if he only gives you 50 points a year, you did good,
Yeah, you're gonna get only 50.
right? And if
But
he gets up to where kind of could get to a steal, I'll admit to that. Yeah. So if Hughes would have reached out and paid that price, I wouldn't have said a thing because you can't go wrong.
yeah.
You know,
Like, what would the equivalent player of Ryan Poehling be for you guys? Like a Jake Evans?
No, maybe an Emma
Joel
Heineman.
A Joel Armia?
Well, no, you wouldn't trade him because you don't have his rights, really.
He's a free agent.
That's a good. That's a good question.
I think it would probably be like a Jake Evans for you guys, but regardless.
Yeah, but he wasn't
No,
getting
I think
moved,
Evans
he'd be
is better
free
than Poehling, so no. But something like that.
They're both high-end fourth liners, whatever it is. Realistically.
I mean that's really it, right? It looks like Poehling's going to be a bit of a journeyman now, but yeah.
He was decent here last year. He put up over 30 points. So, I mean, that's pretty good for a fourth liner. He plays a good two-way game, but you know what you're getting
That's
from
what
him.
Zegras put up.
But in Montreal, we couldn't really say that because of the way he started that very first game, right? And then you look at that where he scored a hat trick and then got the winner in the shootout, and you go, and then you look at the career he had, and it's like, he was never going to live up to that, and he never did here, and he needed to go somewhere else no matter what. So we might have not bias isn't the right word, but a different attitude.
A different outlook on the player.
Well, what kind of a player he was, because we had such high hopes for this kid. And then that first game, and then after that, it was like the air out of a balloon almost.
Yeah. But anyway, overall, what do you think, Nordy? What was your aspect on the trade?
So, I mean, like I said, when we were texting about it in the group chat, I do think if Trevor Zegras can, be the Trevor Zegras that he should be, that we know he can be, I think it is a steal. But I mean, there are concerns there. I mean, first and foremost, the 3 injuries he's had the last 2 seasons. I mean, he's played, I think, just over 82 games combined the last 2 seasons. With one was weird. It was like an inflammation of a bone in his pelvis, and then he broke his ankle, and then he blew his meniscus up. And those are pretty major injuries. And I don't know how much recovery he's still doing from. I mean, it'd probably be just the knee now, but my other concerns kind of on the ice, just from watching him, is, I mean, the back checking, it's really not there. At least I've never seen it there. Doesn't really like to go in the corners and kind of battle for pucks. I've never really seen that in his game. And other than, being kind of, like, I do think he can be showboaty a little bit at times. But again, those are the reasons I didn't want him in Montreal. And because, again, I think it is a risk. The price you paid was fine. Again, I think at that price you can take that risk, but again, like, you really need to hope that he bounces back.
So here's my outlook on Zegras. I love the fact that Danny took the swing. I get it. His value has never been lower, but as you just mentioned, Naughty, they didn't give up much. So even if this doesn't work out, it's not like it's a massive loss. You gave up a high-end fourth liner, one of 4 second-round picks. It was your third of 4 second-round picks, pick 45, and which has probably a 1 in 3 chance of making the NHL at best. And that's just making it, not even what he's going to do there. And then a fourth rounder, which is just a dart throw pretty much. We've seen what Zegras can do. Last year, he had 32 points, 12 goals, 20 assists in 57 games. It's still about a 50-point pace. There's issues that people have stated in past about his attitude or the way he presents himself. I think that had a lot to do with the head coach he had. Cronin is a guy that was pretty much an even worse hard ass than Torts. And that's saying something. Everyone on that team looked miserable. Yeah. Absolutely friggin' miserable in Anaheim.
They hated him. They hated that coach.
And, they tried turning him into something he's not. And one of the things that I loved about Rick Tocchet's presser is the fact that, and he expresses with Mitchkov specifically, and if he's expressing this with Mitchkov, I expect him to express this with almost any other talented player he has. He's going to let them build off of what they're good at, their strengths. He pretty much fantasized about how good Mitchkov of a player is going to potentially be, and a player like that needs the puck. And when I think of Trevor Zegras, he is an elite dangler. That's his game. His puck handling is absolutely exquisite. He knows how to beat guys one-on-one just with his skill set alone. He's got an assortment of moves that he can use on the goaltender. We've seen him use the Michigan a few times, a little loft over the net. I saw him shoot a between the legs goal once or twice. And it's not just the flashy shit. He knows how to just beat guys one-on-one with just his stick handling. And stuff like that, skill like that, is not easy to find. So you bring up the injuries. That is a very valid point. Like, that's something you can't look away from. Like, what was it you say? He had a broken ankle? I think it was one of them you mentioned.
It was a bone in his pelvis, like, got inflamed, and he missed a bunch of time. Because
you had the meniscus
broke his
injury.
ankle like 6 games after coming back from that, and this past year, he blew up his meniscus. He had to have that surgically repaired.
And then what was the last?
He missed a lot of time the last 2 seasons.
You said he broke his ankle was the last one, right?
No, it was meniscus.
He screwed his meniscus.
So it was meniscus, pelvis. I thought you said there was 3 injuries.
Yeah, he had the pelvis inflammation in 23-24. Came back from that 6 games later, broke his ankle, missed the rest of the year.
Okay,
just about the rest of the year. Last year, he tore his meniscus. He had to have it surgically repaired.
So out of those 3 injuries, the only one I'd even have some remote concern about is the meniscus. Because pelvis inflammation just sounds like a fluky thing. It didn't seem like it bothered him last year. And broken bones heal. As long as it doesn't happen a second time, coincidentally, not because usually a broken bone doesn't really reoccur unless if you actually take a bad shot. Kind of like what Jamey Drysdale took on the shoulder. Thankfully, it wasn't the same type of injury that happened 2 years ago against Pittsburgh. But muscle tissue injuries can be a little funky. So that
meniscus is a ligament, not a muscle.
Yeah,
well, you're talking about the same thing. Like, it's a muscle.
It's not a ligament. It's
a bone.
It's basically like the
meniscus.
There's a bone in the knee, isn't it?
No, meniscus
under
is
the
a
knee,
bone.
under the kneecap.
Meniscus it's like basically almost like a little crash pad.
Yeah,
it's under the kneecap.
Bones in the knee from smashing into each other.
That's right.
But it's a muscle / ligament because you can tear. Like, you're not breaking the meniscus.
It's like it's cartilage, basically.
It's cartilage. Yeah.
So it's in the same family, is my point being. Like, it's muscle, cartilage, whatever. It's a reoccurrence of a tear is what I'm really referring to. So something like that, I could have some level of worry, but it's not like it was an ACL. It's not like it was a patellar tendon. It's not like it was an Achilles. The meniscus, as long as it's not like something that reoccurs multiple times.
If it's really small, you're okay. The tear.
Yeah.
Was it the tear that ended his season, or it happened earlier? He came back from that.
It happened early, and it came back, if I remember correctly.
Well, if he came back from it and played, it's probably fine.
So
I don't remember.
I mean, he may not have been 100%, but
they're not all like Carey Price, and Carey Price was a goalie. So there's a lot more wear and tear on a knee for a goalie.
And you got to take into account his age. The kid's 24. It's not like he's 32, 33 with a lot of miles and a lot of. It was
probably a small tear. If he tore it during the season and came back to play, that was not a huge tear. That's a small tear.
But anyway, stepping aside from injuries, I look at this in the big picture as you got a guy that has a lot of talent that could be potentially unlocked. When we talked in the chat before this trade was even announced, I thought you guys would be the pristine team because at the time,
I was getting scared. Some of my contacts were saying that too. I was like, no, don't do it.
But you know what? The risk is not big. He's got 1 year left in his RFA deal of $5.75 million. If he does underachieve, it gives you a reason to sign him to a smaller deal, and he's going to prove it again. If he does play well, awesome. Then you give him a solid deal and see what he has from there. I realistically think a fresh start's going to do him wonders. He's only 24. He's got plenty of mileage left in that tank to show. So I'm looking forward to this. It gives them at least a center for the time being, so it gives Luchenko the opportunity to grow out the OHL and eventually the AHL.
Plus,
it gives Hitchcock a talented person to play with, too.
And you didn't mention that his brother from another mother, Drysdale, is
Drysdale. Yep.
Him and Drysdale are like two peas in a pod. But Drysdale in particular, I saw a quote from Zegras about it. Him and Drysdale they're attached at the hip kind of guys, you know?
They're like what Kevin Hayes and Johnny Gaudreau used to be, like best friends. So
yeah.
And they're
that's a change of scenery that could be very positive for him. And it could go really well.
He's got not one, but two guys he's really cool with because he's very close with Cam York, too. Him and York have been good friends off the ice as well.
So I mean, you can't not take that into account.
For sure.
As far as just a change of scenery, it's not just a change of scenery. He's got really close friends there. That might be what he needs.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day,
who knows?
There's not a log jam. He's got a much more lenient coach. He's got the change of scenery. He's got help. And hopefully his injuries are behind him. And he's got, in my opinion, a better winger core to work with than what he had in Anaheim, too. So we'll see how this goes. I expect him to be pushing around 60 points this year as long as he stays healthy because I think this is just a match made in heaven for him. So we'll see. But I like the move. I'm excited. This is going to be something that is going to be worth the risk. And if it doesn't work out, as I just mentioned, you didn't give up much. But
Matt,
could you tell Alex was excited?
Yeah. Well, so the other big thing with Zegras, though, I will say, and this is kind of really big if you're going to play him at center, his career faceoff percentage is like 38.
It's bad. No, you're right.
He can't win a faceoff to save his life. So I don't know if you have like a good faceoff coach you can work with, but that could kill you. If he
I'm not arguing that. He is not good.
You need a good coach, but you need to also, if you guys have a good faceoff guy to mentor him on that, I don't see how that means anything necessarily.
Sean Couturier has always been a top 10 faceoff guy in the league. So if there's anyone who can help him with, it's that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what they're thinking of, right? That they got, guys, and he's 24. He can learn how to look at our guys. Our guys have improved big time with Devo. Devo being the guy that showed them the way, and look at the results here in Montreal with the centers.
I'm not expecting to be like a near 60% faceoff guy. If he can push close to 50, I'd be happy with that. Okay. Just show improvement.
50%, that's the goal. Anything over is, whatever.
Bonus.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on from the.
Yeah, I was going to say, any other touch-ups before we move on to mock draft?
No, we let you have the. And I mean, we let you have all the words there for Zegras, and you didn't let us down.
All right, let's move on to the mock draft, shall we?
Yes.
It is time for the GPWM.
It's time.
Top 10 mock draft.
Draft.
I need a music thing for that. I wish we had. I just thought of that. That would have been a good idea.
It's not copyright.
I think the Law and Order will do. All right.
This is not copyright. We're good.
Rick, lead us off. Who do you have the New York Islanders taking with the first overall pick?
Well, I'm going to lead you off with Eric and my pick at the same time because it's the same, and it's the New York Islanders taking, of course, defenseman Matt Schaefer. Why? For me, and I don't have any explanations for Eric. For me, from what I saw out there, Schaefer is kind of on a tier by himself. If that is the case, you take that guy number one.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's it. You take that guy for number one.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I have Schaefer going first to the Islanders.
That makes four of us. I got Matty Schaefer going first overall. I could see the Isles consider going Misa because
Good, you said that.
I will say that I won't say Schaefer's in a tier of his own. I do think Misa is close.
But still, Schaefer's a little bit ahead.
I'd say it's like this.
Right.
but it's not like when you say tier of his own, I can at least listen to him.
I didn't say. Did I say tier of his own? Okay, but I meant he's above the other guys.
Yeah, it's
You
like
take that guy.
1A, 1B. Let's go with that.
Okay. Okay, so speaking of Misa, I've got Cam's here. Cam said Misa. He says the Islanders are in a precarious position, having their decor pretty much filled out, unless they move on one of their left-sided defensemen and or Dobson, based on what his asking price may be. I could see them picking Misa over Schaefer if they can't move one of them, but what would that mean for their other centers like Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense to me.
I mean,
that's fair.
It is. The thing is, I do think they're going to move one of Alex Romanov or Noah Dobson either at the draft or by the draft. There's just too much smoke around there right now.
Kind of, right?
Whether it be in a trade like the last week, it's been all I've really been kind of getting info on. It's just all sorts of smoke around Boston and the Isles right now. I don't know what the trade will be if they make a trade, but that's where the smoke is. I know the Islanders are also listening on Dobson and Romanov as well. So I think they end up moving one of them, and if that's the case, then again, I just think it makes Schaefer the
Dobson talk has kind of slowed down, but
yeah,
lately
I think it'll be Romanov if it's one of them. But lately,
because lately it's been Romanov that you've been hearing, but the Dobson haven't really heard that much lately. But Romanov is what they're talking about. So, like you say, one of them looks like they're moving. They're picking Schaefer.
Right. If that's the case, then Matthew Schaefer is just the obvious pick.
And maybe that's the reason why they're talking about moving Romanov now.
Right. Well, you get to think so, right?
Yeah.
But the thing with Romanov that I've heard, the Isles asking price has been quote unquote outrageous from what people have said. So I have to think if he gets moved, it's going to be a draft day deal where the Islanders are like, okay, we got to drop the price on this.
They'll drop the price. They'll do just that. They'll drop the price. You go 3-4 weeks back. Well, up the price so you can negotiate it. Like give them room to negotiate you down. Yeah. But they'll have to drop it if they really want to move them. I mean, listen, it's Romanov. I know he's playing on the first pair, but he's playing with Dobson. Dobson's the big guy on that, and I like Romanov. But it can't be a ridiculous price for him.
I think he's closer to a second pair guy than a first pair, to be honest with you.
He's somewhere in between, in my opinion. But you're right. So, I mean, how ridiculous should the price be?
I think he's a number 3. A good number 3, though.
That's
but
fair.
A number 3 nonetheless.
That's fair.
All right, let's move on to our second pick. Nordy, I'll let you start this one. You got to pick 2.
So I have Michael Misa here. Again, kind of boring. I feel like the first 3 or 4 picks in this draft are kind of I don't want to say set in stone, but I think they're pretty easy to predict. Yeah. I think Michael Misa would be a great addition for the Sharks because I think they like Will Smith on the wing a lot more. I think you bring in a guy like Michael Misa who, down the road can play behind Macklin Celebrini. I think you have a good 1-2 punch there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense, especially where the Sharks are at in their rebuild right now. It gives you a possibility to potentially move Will Smith over to the wing, and that just really adds more to that potential top 6 later down the line. Rick, how about you?
Well, I'll give you Eric's. I'll do the same because we're both got the same. And, the same. Michael Misa.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you just said, right, 1A, 1B. Well, if he's 1B, clearly he's going to be the next guy. Unless San Jose had a specific need that there was a player in the top, like 3 or 4 that would answer that, you got to go with the best player available. I think that would be Misa.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense in all honesty. For me, my pick at 2 is also going to be Misa. I've been high on Misa for some time. At the beginning of the year, I think he was touted right around 5 or 6, and he just skyrocketed his way up the rankings. This guy had, 130 points in juniors. He was absolutely absurd. This kid's just the complete package of talent, speed, strength, skill. And this is probably the closest thing you're going to have to a surefire 1C in this year's draft. So makes sense. And if the Sharks get him, now you got Celebrini and Misa. Could be your next Crosby and Malkin, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What kind of size does he have? I don't know much about the top guys because Habs weren't going to pick there, so I didn't learn.
Well, Michael Misa is a decent-sized kid, but his skill is where he really comes into play. He's about 6'1", about
6'1".
190 pounds.
He's 6'1". No, he's got the size.
Yeah.
That's good. He's got the minimum. He's on the minimum side, but he's got the size. He's not 5'10". He's not 5'9".
184. It's fine.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Because you said Hagen's is a little small, right? So you know what I mean. So I was wondering because I don't know much about them. I didn't know how big he was.
Yeah. How about Cam? I assume.
Yeah, Cam's got the opposite. Cam's got the opposite. He's got Schaefer.
All right. Let's have fun at pick 3. This is where.
Do you want me to? I could read what Cam wrote. I'll read it because he wrote it every time. A stud defenseman makes sense for the San Jose Sharks. They have a good forward group in the making with Will Smith, Celebrini, William Eklund, but are missing one or two pieces on the defensive side. After getting their goalie and Askarov via trade, I think a push for defense would not surprise me if Schaefer is still available. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, pick 3. That's where the draft kind of starts to begin. Chicago, I have them taking Anton Frundell.
I'll do.
Yeah, this is why I say kind of, because this pick is starting to look a little contentious, although it's not official till it's official. But Anton Frundell, I have raved about this kid. This is who I wanted the Flyers to take for months. Big Swedish kid, played in the Pro League with Victor Eklund, 6'2", about 200-ish pounds. He's got an awesome shot, plays an excellent two-way game, dominates the boards. This kid's something. The big issue that people worry about is if they think he's going to be a center, because he doesn't really play well in transition. His play driving is, although it improved this year, that's kind of been the point of his game that people point to. But he's got a really good arsenal of skill in his pocket. He's good pocket. His shot is ridiculous, and his defense can't be overstated. He's going to be a great 200-foot player for sure.
Sounds like a
great
winger
size too. 6'1.5", 6'2", 200 pounds.
Big
sounds
kid.
like a winger. Sounds like a winger to me.
If he ends up moving to the wing,
center.
a team like Chicago can at least afford that. Where
makes sense though. With you got Bedard there, you got Frank Nazar, a good winger like this guy. It makes sense to me that they would.
If you start him down the middle and he works out, awesome. If not, it's not the end of the world. You still probably get a top line left winger there.
Okay, but where you got Nazar, you got Bedard. Unless Bedard, and I've heard this that people think that in a year or two, by then Bedard's actually going to be playing wing.
And that's possible, but if he moves over to the wing, you probably just move Nazar down at the second line. I think Frundell's going to have a higher ceiling than Nazar personally, and that's not a bad problem to have. So
another reason why I would think Chicago would take him because he gives you those options.
Yeah,
and you've talked about that before, right? With this guy especially, right? Those and Chicago, that's good options to have for Chicago, especially if they do want to eventually move Bedard over to the wing. So it makes sense. Right. I'll tell you what Cam wrote. It has been reported that the Blackhawks have an extreme interest in Frundell that could help bolster their lacking center depth, even with Frank Nazar, who also plays wing. But a guy like Frundell, who has been deemed a dual threat, I could see going to Chicago, especially with what has been rumored. And now also with Nazar, a bit on the smaller side too. So that might be something. That reason why they might say, listen, it gives us a lot of options. And
they need size.
Makes sense, yeah. Because even Bedard on the small side.
Yeah.
So
especially Bedard. The kid looks like a Twinkie out there still.
Yeah, right now he's 5'10", I think. So he's not a big guy,
So you get a kid like Frundell who can be that big, bulky, at worst winger to play on his line. It's the size you need. And that could help this kid tremendously, potentially getting opportunities near in front of the net and being set up where Frindell ends up taking an extra play and potentially open things up for Bedard too. So I like it for them for sure. Naughty, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got Frindell here. I think the Blackhawks are all but officially kind of set on the pick there. Obviously, they're not going to say anything because draft hasn't happened yet. But I think Frindell goes there. The Blackhawks. Yeah, I think down the road, either you have a really good 1-2 punch with him and Bedard, or you move Bedard to the wing and Frindell at center, or vice versa. But I think either way, I think it's a really good asset for their top six for the future.
I agree.
Or you got 3 centers situationally, depending on what you play, whoever.
All right, pick 4. This is when the draft actually gets interesting.
Yep.
Starts at Utah. All right, Rick, let me let you start. Who do you have Utah at pick 4?
I'm gonna go because now after the trade for Zegras, I don't know if this happens, but I didn't change. Philadelphia and Utah trade positions. I'm not going to give you details of a trade. I don't know, but there's going to be their pick at 6, and probably one of their other first round. Yeah, I would have to think, and then Philly takes Caleb Desnoyers. And because the reason I'm saying this is because if you think, and I do too, that, and I get this kind of from you and stuff I've heard, Desnoyers might be a pick Nashville wants to make.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want Desnoyers, I think you might have to trade up, and so I'm going with that. And also, it makes the draft a lot more interesting.
For sure. Naughty, your turn.
So I don't have a trade here. I do have Desnoyers going here to Utah. I don't think this is kind of where the first big trade happens. I do think it happens a couple picks from here. Again, I think it's a kind of a safe pick for Utah. I think it's a good center to add. And yeah, I mean, I think he kind of hovered around this area in a lot of other mock drafts. So
yeah,
I was kind of boring. So I kind of
seen him at 3 too. I've seen him at 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
He said it was boring, so it's a perfect time to play that. All right. The rumor has been Utah was very interested in Brady Martin, and a lot of teams have been talking that they might want to move down. I don't think they achieve what they want and end up being stuck at 4 because the asking price is too high for these teams' blood. And because of that, I think Utah takes a bit of a reach and ends up taking Brady Martin at 4. And if they did that, I think that would be like the equivalent of the Brett Seneke trade pick of last year that Anaheim made, where we're all like, why did they? That's confusing.
That could come off. So
yeah. Now it could work out. I don't know, but from what I'm seeing with Brady Martin, the comp to him has been Tom Wilson. He's a big body guy, high energy, but I don't think he has the ceiling that a lot of these other guys have. And I've even said before, not just here, but in a group chat and on social media as well, Brady Martin is probably the guy that is the least appealing to me. He's a big body, and he might be a guy to consider trading up for later on in the teens somewhere. I'm not sniffing him anywhere near 4 or 6 or anything like that. He seems like a guy that's like pick 13, 14 to me, and that would be just
really
outrageous reach. But I think Utah is set on this guy and ends up taking Brady Martin at 4. Despite not being in their best interest. Because they need size. They do. But I don't think it would be, me personally, I wouldn't do it, but I think that's what they do.
But remember also, right, this is still the Coyotes management and everything, right? So, they might do something like that.
Yeah, they said they like him a lot. So
yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
What about Eric? What's he got?
Eric has Utah taking Porter Martone.
Makes sense.
Cam agrees with that, so I'll get them both at the same time.
Martone makes sense. Physical, big winger. I mean, again, it's what I just emphasized. He needs some size. Logan Cooley is a freak, but he's on the smaller end. A lot of their skilled guys on that team are pretty small in general.
Yeah, I'll tell you what Cam said. So for Martone, now they are interesting. Okay, the club had said that he would be all right with moving the 4th overall pick for the right price, which to me indicates there is not someone that they particularly fancy in the top 5. But what would the asking price be? Based on what they need on their roster is why I put Martone here. He's a solid right shot winger, which they more or less need.
I mean, I think that would make a lot more sense than them having their love fest over Brady Martin. I mean, they need size, and Martone fits that bill very well. He's big, he's physical, he's going to be a really good winger, I think, in this league for a while. I honestly think he's probably the 4th most talented player in this draft if you ask some people. But, I mean, when you look at the good players, Dylan Guenther isn't exactly big. Matthias Maselli didn't exactly take the step foot everyone thought he was going to take. So they kind of have to make a move at some size here. So that would make a lot of sense.
Which would be why they were to be interested in Brady Martin, no?
Yeah, that's Martone makes. I'm just saying in terms of Cam's pick, but yeah, that's why they'd be interested in Martin.
I'm just saying
why they probably want to move down, but
right,
I don't think they're going to get what they want. All right, anyway, pick 5. Nordy, I'll let you start this one.
Yeah, so this one's interesting because I think if Desnoyers does end up staying on the board, I think he goes here to Nashville. But I think if this kind of goes the way that I'm kind of thinking it will, I can maybe see this James Higgins here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he really drops far. Like, if not here, maybe to you guys at 6. I don't think he goes farther than that though. But again, I'll get more into that because I do think if he does, the trade that I have penciled in here will happen. But I think the Preds here.
Higgins, yeah,
it's hard. It's hard because after
this is going to be an interesting pick for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could potentially a little reach, but I could potentially see maybe even like Roger McQueen here because he's friggin' huge.
That's a reach, though. I think
I
think it is a reach. I get it because things can happen. Like I guess if Desnoyers there, it's him. If he's not, I don't. There's just a lot of possibilities here. But I think at 6'5", almost 200 pounds, it's a reach.
I'll say. Can I add to that though? What you're saying? Mm-hmm. If size is going to be valued again, like really big time here, then it's not as much of a reach because I could see that a team would take this guy a little earlier than where I would have him.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Matt is right.
It's interesting.
We're gonna find out.
It's interesting you bring up McQueen too. There's a lot of people saying that if this guy didn't have the injury problems that
that is a big concern. He broke his back.
He'd be a top 5 pick for sure. But he's kind of got the Caden Lindstrom vibes from last year. Remember the back issues that Lindstrom dealt with before the draft?
Yeah.
And they ended up peeking their head again this year in Columbus. And that's kind of the thing with McQueen. Like he dealt
broke
with
his
that.
back. I think he had to have surgery. I don't know if he had surgery, but he broke.
So he got misdiagnosed, is what he said. They originally said it was a disc issue, and it wasn't.
No, it was he broke something in his back.
Yeah, but the thing is, I also read something that it takes him a bit to get his back loose, and that kind of scares me. That does.
Oh, it is certainly a concern.
Yeah,
there's major risk there, but in terms of raw talent, McQueen is there. He is a first-line guy if he stays healthy. But that's the thing. It's a major risk to go after a guy like that, and I think that's going to make him drop a bit.
Yeah.
Rick, who do you have at 5?
Who do I have at 5? And I think all 3 of us here that I'm controlling have Higgins. I'll read you what Cam said because I don't have. I just think at that point he's probably the best, best player available. Mm-hmm. They're desperate, need of a center with their aging core and with the comparisons to Jack Hughes. Higgins could be the guy. He is a little bit heavier than Jack was when he was drafted at the same height. There are concerns about his size, but based on talent alone, the risk would be worth it. I mean, I think I agree with that. I think Nashville will go with the best player available. If Desnoyers is not there, which I don't think he will be.
So like you guys, I am also going James Higgins to 5 at Nashville, and it's kind of interesting because Barry Trotz usually loves his two-way centers. That's always been a thing for him. And I figured that Caleb Desnoyers would be a perfect fit in Nashville for that reason. But I think Trotz is going to go a little bit away from his philosophy because he knows he needs some skill and speed down the middle. Because he knows this Nashville team is old as fucking dirt.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Ryan O'Reilly is a potential trade candidate for them. So they're going to eventually move him.
Montreal.
Could be. Would make some sense. Going to potentially move him eventually down the line. And when Higgins, whenever he's ready, will slide right into that top 6.
That's true. Yeah.
So
this year,
they need some speed and skill. And while Desnoyers is more of the Trotz type of player, Higgins fits the new mold of what they need. So I honestly think Trotz kind of gets away from his philosophy a little bit and ends up going Higgins for that reason. Because he's got some great playmaking and he's a damn good skater. Small dude, but he is skillful. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Pick 6. That's going to be the Flyers pick, so I'll lead this off. I have the same pick I had in our mock draft. I have us picking Caleb Desnoyers. I think the board just falls that way. I do think there has been talk about Jake O'Brien possibly as well. That, from what I've heard, is a rumor. He might be the backup option if whoever they do want is gone. But Desnoyers just seems like the fit. They need a big two-way center, and he plays a bulky, solid style of play, and I think he would fit that mesh perfectly. So I think Danny is going to emphasize getting some size down the middle, and Caleb Desnoyers is going to fit that mold pretty well here. So I have them picking him at 6. Rick, you go next.
All right. Okay, so for me, I have the trade happening, right? So Utah, I have them having traded down, making it look a little better that they reached for Brady Martin.
Oh, okay. So
Brady
they got them going for him at 6. Interesting.
Yeah.
How about Cam and Eric?
Eric has Desnoyers, and Cam has Desnoyers, and he says this: similar to Nashville, Philly's looking for their next center. If Higgins isn't available to them at 6, then the next best option would likely be Desnoyers. He's touted as a well-rounded two-way forward that can produce.
Makes sense. Naughty, so we'll end it with you. What do you got at 6?
So, in my mock, with Higgins going 5th to Nashville, I think Philly goes Jake O'Brien here. Like I said, in my mock draft, Desnoyers is already off the board. I think Jake O'Brien is a good option, though, still here for Philly. Like you said, good size. To add a little bit of muscle, he's only 172 pounds, but the height's there. I think he's a good center that you need to add because I even after, acquiring Zegras today, I still think you need a lot. You're still – center's still a hole throughout your organization. So I think Jake O'Brien makes sense here. Again, if this draft goes the way that I have it, which obviously no one knows how the hell it's going to go until but I have Jake O'Brien here.
Fair enough. All right. Pick 7. Rick, I'll let you start this one.
Well, we'll let Cam start this one. How's
okay,
that?
Cam, you start this one because it's the Bruins.
Because it's the Bruins, right? So Cam's got Jake O'Brien going to the Bruins. Boston, like the 3 previous teams, are also in need of a future center. Jake fits the bill, but he is small for his height. I guess weight-wise, he's talking about?
Yeah, he's 176 to 170 pounds. So
okay, but at 18, he'll over the next 3-4 years, you're going to gain weight.
Yeah.
He would need to put on weight before making the big roster. Of course, he has been compared to Wyatt Johnson of the Dallas Stars, who is a solid second-line center for them at present with potential to be a first.
Okay. How about you, Rick?
I got to continue. I'll do okay. So just to say, Eric has O'Brien as well, and I do not. I have in my mock, I have Porter Martone has not been picked yet. I have them taking Porter Martone.
And that makes 2 of us, Rick, because I also have the Bruins taking Porter Martone at the 7th spot. I'm kind of going back and forth between O'Brien and Martone there, but I think the Bruins go best available. I know he's a right winger, but he plays a really physical style of play, which is something I know the Bruins love. It's always been their philosophy is just kind of a beat you down type of play. So I think Porter Martone would fit like a glove in Boston. So it's close. I could see them going Jake O'Brien too. It wouldn't be dumb at all. But I think Martone will be the pick for Don Sweeney for once making a good pick. Naughty, your turn.
So I think there's 3 ways that this could play out. And this is where I have my trade. So, number 1, if for some reason, I think, however unlikely it is, but if James Higgins drops around here, I think this is where the Isles, again, there's a lot of smoke right now, but this, I think, is where the Isles target to move into to take him. That's number 1. Number 2, I do like Porter Martone here. He's got the size. The Bruins for whatever reason, they just draft fucking big bastards. He is a right wing, though. I think center is a little more pressing need for him.
But it's down the road. Is Martone going to make the team this year?
Right. No, for sure. The other option, third and final option, I think Roger McQueen could go.
That would be the most Bruins thing ever.
I also think that he is probably the most Boston Bruin pick.
And then he ends up having a back case where he never plays.
Perfect Sweeney pick.
So I think it's one of those 3 options for Boston. I think they either make that trade with the Isles, they take Martone, or they take McQueen. I think it's one of those 3 options.
I think they do. I don't think they take the chance. But it's Sweeney. But I mean, realistically, why take a chance on a guy like McQueen?
Because he's 6'5".
But you got a talent like Martone there.
No, I listen. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm telling you,
question mark.
Listen, the past few years, what have we seen the Bruins take when they draft?
Yeah, but they just
take whoever the biggest freaking bastard is on the board.
Naughty, didn't they pick a player who got 3 points in college in the first round last year?
Yeah, let her know. They just took him. He's a big guy and all that, but you want to make that same kind of gamble?
Knowing Don Sweeney, he probably went, he's 6'5".
I said it's
big. That screams Bruin. I'm going to take it. He's got a broken back. Shit.
Don Sweeney maybe would do it, but to me, that's a huge gamble when you got a guy like Porter Martone sitting right there. Or Jake O'Brien in my draft is right there. Yeah. So anyway, that's my opinion. Did I give everybody? Yeah, I'm done.
All right. On to pick 8.
On to pick 8.
That is who? Buffalo, correct?
Yes.
That's Seattle. I'm sorry.
Seattle. Let's lead off with Eric. Why? Eric is giving Jackson Smith. I have no fucking clue who that is.
He's in the WHL. He's a defenseman. He's I don't know too much about him, but he's considered one of the top, second or third best defenseman, depending on who you ask.
6'3", 195.
Oh, okay. I haven't even seen his name yet out there, so that's why I've never heard of this guy.
He's projected 11 or 12. It's not a major reach.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it makes sense. Seattle needs some D help.
Okay.
And that's also what I have them picking, except not Jackson Smith. I have them taking Radim Murtka, defenseman out of the WHL.
Murtka. Huge guy.
Yeah, big kid.
Big. 6'6", I think, right?
Yep. Yeah, they need – this is the thing with Seattle that I have pointed to. They have a lot of help down the middle. They have Berkeley Catton coming. They already have Wright and Beniers. So they really don't need a center. They might consider a wing, but I don't think that's going to be the pick for them either. I think Murtka makes a lot more sense just to fill their pressing need at defense, and they get a big physical guy who can be a potential future top pairing guy. Plays the body great. Hell of a shot. I like Murtka a lot. He's a potential trade-up candidate for me.
Probably a friggin' freight train, too.
Mm-hmm. Naughty.
Yeah, I like Murtka here as well. Again, really just because of that size. I mean, he's massive. And he's a good puck mover, got a wicked shot. I think it makes a lot of sense with the Kraken here. I could see Smith go here as well. Not as big. He's 6'3", 200, but again, good puck mover. I think he had 54 points in 68 games or something last year in Jackson Smith. So again, that kind of, that puck moving skills there as well. So I think either of those two make sense for Seattle here.
All right, let's move on to pick numero 9.
No. I'm not done.
Cam, right?
Me and Cam.
I don't know why I thought you already went, Rick. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
For me, and I know I'm hoping this guy's a defenseman. I heard some really good stuff about him, and that I think a lot of people see him a little lower, but I heard he could be. It's a guy that could go in the top 10, and that's Kashawn Aitchison.
Atchison, knew it.
I don't know anything about it. He's a defenseman, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Seattle goes defense.
He's a workhorse. That kid is like one of the most coachable kids I've heard. He is. Yeah. He's like a coach's wet dream. Like
I remember reading about him. Didn't stick much, but it was positive. Everything I read, and then I heard a few people talking.
That's Eric's trade up guy right there. When we had our flyer mock draft, he loves him.
Yeah.
Who'd Cam have?
And Cam is giving Victor Eklund. Eklund is a right wing, and is something that I think Seattle desperately needs, opposite of what you said, unless they plan to move away from their centers, either Beniers or Wright. A choice at winger makes the most sense for this team. I don't see them moving away from either of their young centers. So wing it is.
Eklund's a left wing, by the way, not a right. But
he wrote right wing.
Anyway.
I think he plays both.
Yeah, he primarily is on the left, but he can play the right, but his primary position's left wing. All right, pick 9. This is where I have the Sabres being the Sabres, and they pick Roger McQueen. And this is a risk, but it could obviously pan out. The Sabres are in a position where they're already loaded with their prospect pool, and this is the opportunity to potentially take a big swing. And knowing the Sabres will probably blow up in their face because there's the Sabres and not allowed to have anything nice in life. But if this does work out, Roger McQueen is pretty much another Tage Thompson in the works. Like, big monster, 6'5", great net front presence, has the skill of a guy who's probably 6'0", good puck handling, especially for his size. It's kind of crazy to say, but he's a man. Like, this kid is the definition of high risk, high reward. He is either going to be probably a flat out bust or someone who potentially turns into a future 1,000-point player.
It does sound like a Buffalo player.
Yeah, it's the definition of boomer bust. He could work out tremendously for this team. I just have him going to the Sabres because the Sabres are probably going to pick him. It's probably going to blow up in their face because they're not allowed to have anything nice in life. Although, for the Sabres' sake, I feel bad for that fan base. One of my good buddies is a Sabres fan, so I actually want to see things actually work out for them. They just are not allowed nice things.
Not with that ownership.
The Queen of the Sabres.
All right, I'll go next.
Rick, you're next.
I'll go next. I gave them Jake O'Brien. I just thought Jake O'Brien, from the little I know about him, is kind of the opposite kind of players that they pick, and he's a tougher player, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Right, he's a tough kind of player, and they got guys there that need to be protected, and nobody stands up, and maybe they should start getting guys like that. That's all I can say. I'll go with Eric. Eric's got McQueen, so agrees with you, and Cam has Brady Martin going there. They're super saturated at center. I just think Seattle beats them to the punch before they can snag Eklund. I could see Buffalo moving on from a center where they feel Brady Martin can better exceed them, or spend a year or two developing him down to the AHL.
Naughty, your turn.
So
who's not?
For this pick, I'm gonna go with the Bruins took Martone at 7. We're gonna go with that scenario. So I have Buffalo. I very much agree with you, Alex. I think this is where McQueen goes. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he just, again, kind of fits like a Buffalo Sabres player. He's either going to be amazing or he's going to be out of the league in like 2 years.
Yeah, it's just a thing with Buffalo. They're either going to hit this kid and maybe finally turn things around, or the most Buffalo thing ever will happen to them. It'll look terrible, and they waste a first-round pick on nothing because the poor kid has back issues. And again, I'm not wishing this for Buffalo. I want to see them succeed. I want to see McQueen succeed. Because I don't want to see injury happen to anyone. It feels like the most Buffalo thing ever.
Right. And until they get rid of their management or ownership, excuse me, they're going to just keep doing it.
Sell the team, Pagula, you bum.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, pick number 10.
10.
Nordy, I'll let you start with this one. Who do you have for 10?
So, just because I can, because this is just a mock, I'm going to throw another trade here. I think the Penguins move up one spot, and they take Brady Martin.
Can I hit the trade alert? Oh, no, actually, we don't even have a trade alert thing.
And for one reason and one reason only, Brady Martin is a Sioux Greyhound, and Kyle Dubas is the GM of the Penguins, and he does nothing but stock his teams with Sioux Greyhounds. So I think if he's there, granted, I think, the Ducks probably aren't looking at center right now, so they probably go Eklund, but if they think, if they think the Ducks are going to go Brady Martin, I think Dubas pulls the trigger, moves up one, and takes the Sioux Greyhound.
I can't believe I'm having this board fall like this. I haven't had Jake O'Brien picked yet. But I think the Ducks, even though they're not looking for a center, end up just going best player available and go Jake O'Brien. I know it's not a need for them right now, but a talent of Jake O'Brien's caliber being at pick 10, I think Anaheim looks at this and realizes this would be a great mistake to let him pass. So I'm going to have Jake O'Brien go here at 10. I think Jake O'Brien is arguably the best playmaker in this year's draft. His vision and his passing abilities are excellent. I can't rave about it enough. That's why I wouldn't be upset if the Flyers end up taking him at 6. I just don't want them to pass a guy like James Higgins over for Jake O'Brien. But again, besides the point. Jake O'Brien at 10, I think they add him there, and it ends up being a good move for them. Rick.
All right. I'll lead with Eric because he's got Martin, so he agrees with Matt. Cam and I have the same guy, and that is Roger McQueen. I don't have any reason other than I think I knew about the back, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like Anaheim would take him. I don't know why more than that. Okay, Cam explains it for me better. Hey, I got a cough for a second. All right. Cam says, another team that is saturated at center with Leo Carlsson, Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras, but that is no longer. And the list goes. But there are rumors that Zegras could be shopped, and he was, and that's done. He could also move over to forget that. However, there is also high-risk reward with a guy like McQueen, who has a bit of injury history, but the rewards would be spectacular based on his talent and size, considering the smaller size of the majority of centers on that team. Is Carlson a small guy?
Leo Carlsson?
No.
I mean, no, he plays a good two-way style. I don't think he's all that small.
6'3", I thought.
Yeah, no, I was going to say.
So what's he talking about? And Mason McTavish is like 6'2".
Where did you get that from?
So McTavish is 6'2". So how is that small?
Oh my god!
I think maybe Cam was sitting in the heat or something.
Listen, all due respect to Cam, he's not used to these mock draft things. The Bruins are never usually picking here, so this is kind of new to him. So give him a break.
Guess. Yeah, you got that one wrong. And he was representing me too. Bad on you, Cam. Never trust you for that again. If you want to hear, Eric gave me 4 more picks.
Let's hear.
Yeah, Pittsburgh taking Eklund and then Atchison, 11 and 12, and the Wings taking Murtka, and Columbus taking Carter Bear. I think Carter Bear, that's a fair assessment. I see him in that area.
I hate to say this, but I think the board's going to fall where Pittsburgh gets Victor Eklund, and I'm going to be fucking pissed.
They get Eklund?
Yeah, that they end up with Eklund, because Eklund would be a great value pick at 13.
Well, there you go.
I think he would be good for Honestly, I think Victor Eklund is my dark horse sleeper of this draft because he also played on the same team that Anton Frendel played on, and he was pretty damn productive there too. And he's the same age. So
unfortunately, I don't know too much about this top 10 guys or top 15 because Montreal. I mean, okay, 15 like Murka. I was going to take a look at. Carter Barrett did a video on, but other than that, a lot of these guys I don't know anything about.
I know you're not used to not being in the top 10 years of recent.
Well, no, it's not really that. It's just that I don't really look into these guys till, this time of year. And Montreal's not down there, so I didn't bother to really, research these top guys too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my excuse. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it too.
I will stick it on the Habs for a second, even though we're not in the top 10. I do think that we move one of the picks. I think probably 17 because I really like Justin Carbonneau at 16. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Rick?
But think about this though. If they're going to move one of the picks, it's probably going to be 16.
Right.
Because I was thinking about that too. So and a lot of the not the mocks, the rankings have Carbonneau going at 17. So I do like Carbonneau. Of the guys I've looked at, I like Carbonneau the best so far. I hear Montreal maybe not interested in him. I don't see why, from what I've seen. But yeah, I think they're going to move 16 because that makes more sense to me that a team would be asking for the higher pick.
Oh, geez. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on these drafts before we move on, gentlemen?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. My thought is this. Friday, 7:00. Be here because we're doing a show for the first round, and we're going to bring you these picks and who gets who and what, and if there's any trades and all that stuff.
You're going to get live reactions.
Friday at 7. Be there or be square, man.
You're going to get some live reactions, some exciting ones, and whether.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, people saw how I reacted last year when we picked Jet Luchenko. If we picked Brady Martin at 6, you think that was bad last year? You're going to see something fly across this room, and it's not going to be something I should.
The Philadelphia Flyers pick Roger McQueen.
That wouldn't piss me off as much as if we picked Brady Martin.
Really?
Roger McQueen, I would not be happy about, but I'd take him over Brady Martin.
Oh, okay.
Brady Martin's the worst case scenario.
Oh, I know somebody. Even though you like him, but if they took Murtka there, you would not be happy.
No, not at 6. Murtka's a trade-up guy.
And so there you go.
Say hypothetically to 11, okay, because the centers high-end centers or potential Martone that's going to be there aren't going to be there anymore.
Murtka's not going top 10. Murtka's not going top 10. I actually thought I was going to look into him, do a video on him, because I thought potentially if he falls to one of those 16 or 17, I can see Montreal going with a forward and a guy like Murtka. It's a big guy, and he plays a physical game. It just sounds like a defenseman. The modern NHL, they're going back to that big, talented, good defenseman, but you got to have the size. So, but I don't think he'll be there for Montreal.
All righty. So if you guys have anything you want to add to, if you agree or disagree with our picks, leave a comment. Let us know in the comments section. Let us know what you might think of our mock drafts, just in general. But anyway, we're going to wrap things up with some CBA talk. So the NHL has talked that they are getting close to a new CBA extension. And there's two things about the CBA that we have really kind of been clamoring that have been a bit of issues. One is the LTIR issue, just in general, where you can put a guy on LTIR and just he happens to be ready for game 1 of the playoffs, and it doesn't really affect your cap. You can be over the cap. It doesn't matter because it's the playoffs at that point. And the other being, what the hell was the other one? There was an issue. Now I'm kind of brain farting it. But that was one of them, was the LTIR.
I don't see anything else. That's all we were talking about.
It was the LTIR, but there was another thing mentioned that there was an issue too, and now I'm kind of brain farting it. But let's start with that, the LTIR issue. It sounds like they're in the process of potentially fixing this issue where you have to be cap compliant at the beginning of playoffs. What do you guys think of what the NHL is doing there? Do you agree with how they're handling it? Is there something you think that they could do to be better? Rick, let me start with you.
I think if you are cap compliant for I don't mind that because it evens the playing field again, right? Everybody's got to be cap compliant. Well, everybody, and it takes away the using the LTIR to get another player, and then you bring the guy back for kind of free in the playoffs. Yeah, I like that. They got to do something about it. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I like that idea. How's that?
I remember the second issue, but we'll go over that in a second.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But Nordy, let me ask you, what do you think about what the NHL is doing here for the LTIR shit for the playoffs?
Are they doing this though about the cap?
It sounds like it's going to happen. That teams need to be cap compliant for the start of NHL playoffs, so you can't have guys on LTIR anymore, or it will count against your cap, I should say.
Yep.
But Nordy, let me ask you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm cool with it. But I think there needs to be exceptions for like you have a player like Carey Price who is not playing again. Like, you have to make an exception to be able to keep him on LTIR. But if there's guys that, just for an example, like Mark Stone, the last however many years, something like that, then yeah, I do think, you should be cap compliant. But again, I think you need to leave some exceptions for, again, for certain players that, we know are never going to play again. And
but isn't that the point?
Whatever. X amount
That's
of years.
kind of what they're doing though here, because the whole point of being cap compliant is if you bring a guy back, it'll now count against your cap.
Right.
When you're having a guy on LTIR, it's not going to be against your cap. So Carey Price, you wouldn't have to worry about that in general.
That's right. I was wondering what he's talking about because it doesn't. Yeah. That didn't make sense, Matt. I'm sorry.
No. That makes so yeah. No, I agree with that. If you're gonna take them off, then yeah. No, I like it. I think you should have to be cap compliant. You have to be cap compliant the whole regular season. But why not extend it to the playoffs?
Yeah. The whole point of it is so you can't bring a guy back who has been on LTIR to start the playoffs. Because we both have a player like that that's never going to play again. You with Carey Price, us with Brian Ellis. We wouldn't have to worry about that because those are legitimate injuries.
Right.
They're never coming back.
No, I get that. No, that makes more sense now.
Yeah. That's important for the teams that are bringing guys back like Kucherov a few years ago, like Mark Stone not too long ago, like Kachuk this year. Guys like that who were hurt and put on LTIR so these teams could make off trade deadline acquisitions to bolster the roster with some extra cap space, then bring the guys off of LTIR, and suddenly there's no cap hit against the team. It's now, if you're getting these guys in, you better make your team cap compliant when the playoffs begin. Otherwise, player X can't come back from LTIR. That's the whole point.
If the cap is 95, it's not fair. A team is playing with like a cap would be 110 million, and that's happened where they way over the cap if you count it in the playoffs. So that's got to stop because that's really not fair. If that's the only way they can make that stop, but wouldn't it be like, not that they face fines, but is there not another way to make them like obey the LTIR rules as they should be and not have to do this to make them like? That's what I don't understand. I guess they say, the saying is if you're not cheating, you're not trying, but really like in this, it's kind of sleazy a bit, that teams do this shit.
Oh, for sure. And that's the issue with it just in general. It's to prevent that type of like sly shit. Because there's been so many people pissed off that they're getting these guys back. It's like you're getting an extra 10, 15% of cap compared to other teams. And a lot of these teams have gone on to win the cup. Vegas with Stone, Kucherov with the Lightning, and obviously now Kachuk with the Panthers. Like, the whole point of this is just so you don't get that type of boost, so you can add on these guys. So
I would prefer to see them have more stringent rules on the medical side of proving that the guy, he's on LTIR here, But the problem I guess I see in that is, how much will the fans totally trust that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? At least this way, it's kind of front and center. This is the rule. You can't break it. That's it. And then there's no, you can't come back and say, well, look what happened here and there. That's it. You got to be cap compliant. Playoff start. That's it. So that's probably better.
All right. So the other issue with the CBA that was talked about, this one doesn't look like it's going to get the progress that we'd hoped. But this is the other thing I wanted to bring up: the state tax issues.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So they look like they're not going to be changing this. So what's your opinion on this? Because
what are they going to do? What are they going to do to change it? Like, what do you got an idea of how they make that?
The real issue is what they're saying is maybe those teams who have that advantage with the state income tax, they maybe get a smaller cap compared to them because they don't end up getting taxed to the same degree. Or maybe there's a different type of tax that they're held with the NHL. I don't know. It is kind of a difficult thing to fix because if you take away cap from those teams, then it kind of looks like a blatant number disadvantage. But then obviously when you look at the cap, it's not. I mean, the income tax, it's not as much. But the issue is you're looking at some of these teams down south and the contracts that they're given, and they're not nearly as expensive. Like, one that really stood out for me was the Wyatt Johnson contract a few months ago with the Stars. I thought for sure this guy was getting 10 plus. He took 8 in Dallas.
Because 8 in Dallas is like, I just saw a little video with Nate Thompson. Remember him? He was an ex-Hab.
He played for us for a little bit. I like Nate Thompson.
And he was asked, and I think it was Spittin' Chicklets that had him on, and he was asked about it. Is there a difference? And he said, absolutely, there is a difference, and it is an advantage for a good team, right?
Yes.
A team that's a contender to attract players over other teams. That tax-free thing actually is a very big advantage, according to Nate Thompson.
Yeah, and I agree with him. Like, I think the issue with it is it's kind of tough to enforce.
That's right.
That's the thing. If you're garbage, if you're a bad team in this situation, the Arizona Coyotes for so long, I don't think they had the state income tax. They never were able to attract anyone. And they didn't have to worry about shit like this.
No, that's why he said if you're a contender.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a contender, it's an advantage.
So that it's kind of a difficult thing to enforce.
To quantify, right.
It's because are you just going to say you're good now. Now we have to enforce this so you don't get the boost. It's kind of tough. What do you think, Naughty?
No, I do think it is an advantage. And it's really only an advantage for like half the games in the year because as far as I know, with the game checks, they're taxed based on wherever that game's being played.
Yes, true. But when an NHL player is telling you if he's offered a contract from a contending team in a no-tax state over a contending team in a heavily taxed state or more tax state, he's going to the no-tax state every single time. Yeah. Because you're taking home a good chunk more. So unless there's an emotional reason to, a guy looking for a better payday is going there. So it's an advantage.
No, it absolutely is. And especially too, if, again, right, you're that contending team, you don't have to, for example, right, we'll go back to like Wyatt Johnson. Dallas knew they could get him at 7 or 8. They didn't have to offer 10 because, he was going to take home,
right,
the same amount as if he was offered 10 by like a team like just say Boston, for example, right? with the state income tax, because after tax, it would get down. So it's a huge advantage for those teams because they know they're not going to have to use up a lot of cap space to bring guys in because of that.
I've seen some stats on it on a $10 million deal, which not a lot of guys make, right? But on a $10 million deal, a guy in a no state city is taking home a couple of $1 million more, probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. And even if it's $1 million, $1.5 million, I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. That's a lot of fucking money.
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
sure.
it is.
If you're not like emotionally attached to a certain team, that's where you want to go. You're gonna pick a team, especially if they're a contender and you want to win, that's in a no state, tax state.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like,
so it's got to be an advantage just right there. And I was the opposite thought before hearing an NHL player that I know from him playing on our team that he's not bullshitting when he says this, and he's saying, yeah, there's not even a doubt in his mind it's an advantage. Okay.
The only thing I could think of that could potentially fix this issue is they don't really have – the NHL ends up implementing their own version of a tax, and I don't think they could do that, but you do something like that to counteract it. Maybe for those teams that don't have an income tax, you can give them this type of fee that the NHL pushes out to kind of like balance it to the teams that do have the income tax.
I was thinking sort of along the lines what you're saying is that maybe those teams that have no state tax, they have to limit the size of their contracts.
But then that just feels like you're restricting.
Well, at least listen, if it's not censorship, basically, that's the best word I can come up with, then there's no solution. You have to leave it go as it is.
With the thing that I just brought up, you at least the no income tax, you're giving them your own version. It's not a tax, but it's like a fee. It's like an income tax.
Is there a law? I mean, is that legal though?
I don't even think it is legal to be.
I don't think that's a legal thing you can do.
If it's not legal, then I don't know.
Especially if it's only like what? A third of the teams in the league?
It's a tax. I don't think that's legal. I think you'd have to you get away with limiting those teams limit their contract.
Or another thing is you kind of combine the two and make it an equal value to where I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out here. Say Team A has an 8% income tax and Team B has like a 2% income tax. You make them both where they have to equal out everyone to 10. So Team A was the 8% income tax.
You're going to make, but
you put in this fee.
But it's the government. Tax is a government thing.
I know. And see, that's what makes it so tough.
Taxes on one team and lower.
No, it's not a tax. It's the NHL as its own private entity pushing out a fee.
Yeah, but I would think.
Yeah, but then how? But how do the players react to that?
I think you could go to court and challenge that as bad. I'm not going to use the right term here, but like bad business practice, illegal business practice.
Well, that's something you'd have to discuss in the CBA. Like,
yeah,
it's not like it's hiding it.
I don't think
if the players don't agree to it, they don't agree to it.
No, but I think it'd be against the law. This is a government. You're right, you're talking about things that governments do, and and in the States, it's by state. I don't think you can force whatever the conditions are in another state on a particular industry in that state.
Well,
I don't think you could do that.
The thing is, it's not a tax, though. That's why I say it's a fee.
Right, yeah, but Alex, think about it this way.
Challenge that. I think you could challenge that as an illegal.
See, that's what makes it tough. Fee. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, you have to just keep going the way you're going.
I gotta say, talking really basically here, and I'm not a brilliant mind on this by any means. I don't know that there's a solution to it. Like, I really don't.
Sorry to interrupt you, Norton. What were you gonna say?
No, what I was gonna say is too, from the player's perspective, like that would all but eliminate them wanting to go to those teams, because why are they gonna go sign to a team for whatever lesser amount of money because of the no income tax, but then they go, oh, by the way, we're taking $2 million out of your pay because we have to pay a fee.
No. It would be the same value of a contract. So like 10 mil. The way I'm just thinking of it is, it makes 10 million in Florida be the same as 10 million in, say, Toronto. That's the way I was just trying to think of it.
I don't think that's legal.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at federal government shit too, because now you're bringing in two countries.
But that's a weighted contract.
Yeah, that's true too. I didn't even think of the two country aspect.
Those are weighted contracts. I don't know. I think there would be a challenge in court that this is not proper.
No, I'm with you on that, Rick. It
doesn't sound right to me anyway.
I feel like if Cam was here, he would have just told me no 3 seconds in and just shut it completely down.
Yeah, I don't see a solution to it. Really, I don't.
I don't know.
But it is a problem. It is a problem.
If you guys in the comments section, let us know what you think. My idea is kind of Fantasyland-ish. But it looks like at least the LTIR issue is being fixed. But if you have something to suggest about the state income tax thing, let us know.
Especially I don't think you're a lawyer or something. You might have some no more than we might on this subject about whether that is legal or they could do something along those lines. Maybe not exactly what, but is what Alex is talking about. Is that legal?
Yeah, it probably is. There's no honesty.
If anybody out there knows, let us know. We'd love to know.
All right. Does anyone else have any final thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
No. Not me.
I'll say no. All right. So with that being said, that's going to wrap this episode up of the Pucking Around podcast, our 74th installment. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think. And as we said earlier, tune in on Friday where we're going to be having our live stream for the 2025 first round of the NHL Draft. Come hang out with us as all these picks happen. Hopefully some trades, some chaos. We got some fun coming up, folks. Friday's going to be fun.
Should be exciting,
as always, good seeing you guys. And everyone take care. And we will see you next week on the Pucking Around podcast. We'll be talking about what happened in the draft a little bit. But until then, take care, everyone, and have a great night.
Ciao, everybody.
Later, people.
Promise you you'll kiss me